Now let's turn our attention to the aviation sector, with Nigeria's once dogged by safety concerns is now making steady progress over the past 2 years through stricter checks, upgraded facilities and improved staff training. But rebuilding full public trust in the aviation security system now remains a work in progress. Globally, airports deploy modern scanners, biometric verification and intelligence sharing to deter the threat. Countries like the United States, the United Kingdom and the UAE also emphasize continuous staff training and strong inter-agency coordination. Analysts say adopting these measures locally alongside Nigeria's recent upgrades will enhance safety, speed up checks and also improve crisis response. Now, experts believe this will not only rebuild passenger confidence but also position Nigeria as a competitive aviation hub in the region. But for more insights on this conversation, I'm joined by the former US TSA Aviation Security and Regulatory Attaché Olusheyi Ogunleye, who joins me in the studio to discuss aviation security in Nigeria. It's good to have you join us at this time.
Thank you.
So let's start with how you assess our aviation system, how we run things here. Would you say we work well or we can be compared to other climes?
Thank you for having me. And aviation system in Nigeria is working. Okay. You know, every day we move probably 12 to 13,000 passengers through the system successfully. You know, yeah, my initial assessment is that it's a work in progress, like every aviation sector in the world.
Right. And if you've been following news very well, there's been a lot of drama in the media about the aviation system. More recently, we had an issue with the passenger and some, onboard staff.
Correct.
But when you compare with, other climes as to the way they conduct their own aviation system, as from even the airport itself, boarding your flights, and security in the airspace itself, what do you say we've improved?
Yeah, I would say we've improved. Okay. I really must start from the passenger's point of view.
Okay.
Air travel begins well before passengers get to the airport. Typically, when you're leaving home, you have to get through the traffic and get through different things to actually arrive at the airport. But if somebody calls you when you're going to the airport, your response will be, I'm traveling, right? Because in your mind, the travel has already begun. And so by the time you get to the airport, you love all those experiences together. And then sometimes it works out well, sometimes not so well. But in a manner of speaking, looking at other sectors, there's a reason why we have a body like ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Authority, organization. They came about essentially because the need was to prevent acts of interference, right? So there's a common knowledge in the aviation industry around the world that acts of interference are part of the system. And an example of an act of interference is an unruly passenger. And so when you look at the totality of the volume of people that we travel through our system and the number of incidents that are reported, it is relatively minute. Still, there must be improvement made in the system.
So let's talk about this improvement. I mean, Nigeria tends to respond to this situation rather than sometimes putting a system that will prevent some of these things from happening. How do we move from a reactive posture to sort of an intelligence-driven position where we know that some of these things are in place, we don't have to react to them at this time?
Okay, so that's a good question. I believe that the current disposition of the leadership from the regulatory authority all the way to the Federal Aviation Authority of Nigeria, and of course managed by the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace. Right. I think their bent is pretty good for the system. And I say that to mean, aviation is more than aircraft, but we need aircrafts to fly. And on top of that, we have enough regulations. This is the most regulated transport sector in the world. Aviation is, because it's sensational, it's high visibility, it's high risk, and the consequences are great, And so taking a look at all of that, we have to go back to the basics, go back to the times when we dreamt of flying. I remember my first flight to this day. Right. It was super exciting. Just being in the airport space, even though we hadn't taken off yet.
Okay.
Just being in the airport input some feelings of excitement into you. I think we have to return to delivering passion in the service industry that is aviation, from the ticket counters all the way to the gate agents, all the way to the cabin crew, cockpit crew. We have to find a way to get those professionals to believe in the industry all over again. It's not enough to just train. You have to train and certify. And then it's not enough to certify. You have to certify and specialize.
I think you've sort of touched on rebuilding public trust, especially in the system, as to how people view the aviation system before. Although since this administration began, we've seen a lot of, changes. But more recently, as we've been having a lot of issues in the aviation system as to, passengers, their experiences, especially, it now boils down to how much of change we expect in the system when we compare it to other climes. Talk to us about some of the solutions that you will prefer as an expert in the aviation space.
Okay, so I would say that there has to be a clarity. There has to be clarity in the expectation of behavior for passengers as well as staff. Right, I remember in the U.S. when I was the director of airport security at Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston, Texas. We used to have a period of time when we run holiday survival skills training. We called it holiday survival skills training because we came to the realization that you have your traditional travelers, the folks, the business travelers that are on board an aircraft every week. They know what to do, they know the rules, they know the regulations, they know how to pack their stuff, they know what they can bring, what they cannot bring. They have a high IQ when it comes to traveling. And then you have your non-traditional flyers that are not so savvy. They're the ones that forget what the liquid the liquid quantity is that you must have. They forget those rules, so we educate them. I think NCA is doing a good job of, the Consumer Affairs Division doing a good job of speaking and reminding passengers about their rights. Perhaps we can talk a little bit more about their responsibilities when they're in the space. Maybe some effort over there. NCA is the foremost regulatory authority over aviation in Nigeria. They are more than consumer affairs. We need more visibility. I would propose more visibility of regulatory agents in the field, because your entities, and those are all the occupiers in the airport terminal building that we all call the airport experience. The entities are regulated parties. And the best way to regulate a party is to sit down with them in conversation and figure out what their challenges are and map out a solution to that challenge.
All right, very quickly, because of our time, there's no way I'll wrap up this conversation without talking about the introduction of artificial intelligence, especially in our airports. Is there going to be a particular time where we do not have to necessarily check in and all of that? We can run it on our systems and board our flights?
Okay. In the spirit of time, I'll say yes. However, the nature in which it would emerge might be a little bit different. Systems are being built right now, technology for screening, that apply artificial intelligence into the screening methodology, so that you screen people based on the risk profile that they present. If I have a good risk profile, then in Nigeria, I should have the same profile in another country. It shouldn't be geographically located. And I think there's work being done behind the scenes. I agree with you on that.
More work is being done. We're looking forward to those times. But that's a fine place to leave the conversation for now. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
Former US TSA Aviation Security and Regulatory Attaché Olusheyi Ogunleye. Thank you for joining us in the studio this time.